I'd like to talk a little bit about our team, and after that, I'm gonna show you some information about our university, University of São Paulo, and after that, a little bit about our research here in biofuels. Okay, so you're gonna see our team. Just a moment, please.
Could you turn the light on so we can actually see it?
Okay, I'm Messias. I'm a faculty member here at USP Lorena, and I'm a faculty member at the School of Engineering of Guaratinguetá, São Paulo State University, a visiting professor at Harvard University, its School of Engineering and Applied Science, and a facilitator in Lean Enterprise for international courses with MIT. So I'd like to show our team, and you can see everyone here, please.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
The only mic is the webcam mic, so we're gonna have to speak really loud.
My name is Cristiano. I'm chemical engineer. I have been working with my crowd about 1 year and 2, and I will produce ethanol. I intend. Okay.
So he is my PhD student. He is a teacher assistant here at USP Lorena, and at this moment he is a regular student, PhD student in my research group.
Hello, good evening. My name is Guilherme, and I'm currently on the research project in the biofuels area with everyone here.
Hi, my name is Larissa. I'm an undergraduate student, and I work with Messias and Carla in a biofuel research too.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Lucas. I'm graduating here in USP in São Paulo, and I am part of the team. We're working in the biofuel project with Professor Messias, and there's still 4 people left.
Hi, I am Carla. I study doctorate and optimization by microalgae.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mateus, and I'm chemical engineer and PhD student. Bye.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diego, and I'm part of the team of the research team.
Nice to meet you.
Hi guys, my name is Igor, and I study engineer here.
Okay. So the other guys that you can see in the slide, they are abroad studying in different countries, but they still part of our team. You can see Cristiano. Cristiano is right now at the University of Minnesota, and is a PhD student, and she's still part of our group. Cristiano, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Cristiano. I was part of the group to do my undergrad thesis over there. I worked with wastewater treatment with microalgae, and now as a PhD student at the University of Minnesota, I work with cultivation of microalgae on corn ethanol co-products and also some technologies to treat wastewater and agricultural wastewater with microalgae. So yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, so we would like to know a little bit about you, please.
Okay, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we are a student group, Roadrunners for Renewable Resources. We are interdisciplinary. We have students from all different disciplines at UTSA, and what we do is we volunteer with the Texas Sustainable Energy Research Institute, and we promote any kind of research that is renewable and any sort of practices around campus that involve renewable technology and sustainability. And so we are very interested in biofuels and alternative ways of fueling, so that's a little bit about who we are.
Okay, so guys, it's a pleasure for us to stay with you this evening, and we hope in the next future we can stay together in person here or in Texas at Texas University. Our doors are open to exchange students, PhD students, undergraduate students, faculty members, and please be free to come when you decide. And here you will find a very interested family to stay working together. So I'm going to show you a little bit about our institution. We are part of University of São Paulo. So just for start, you can see the slide.
Well,
Can you see the slide?
Ask him to turn the lights.
The slide is kind of small.
The slides?
They're small.
Yes, okay. So we are part of the University of São Paulo. You can see our state. São Paulo is the most developed state here in Brazil. University of São Paulo has several campi in 7 cities around the São Paulo state. The major activities are generation of knowledge, higher education, and extension of activities to the society. Our position in the international ranks is a very interesting position, as you can see, and one of the most important institution of rankings, university ranks around the world. So we have many different schools: our law school, our medicine school, our college of agriculture in Piracicaba, our polytechnic school of engineering in São Paulo. Is a vision of our campus in São Paulo capital. The campus, the School of Engineering in São Carlos, campus of Ribeirão Preto, Bauru. All these are different cities around the São Paulo state. Pirassununga, East Campus in São Paulo capital, and it's the place that we are right now. We are in an important economical region in São Paulo state that is called Paraíba Valley, you can see the river, Paraíba River. Our second campus in Lorena, here in the first campus, we have 3 different departments: chemical engineering department, biotechnology department, and science and environment, basic science and environmental engineering. And in the second campus, we have the materials department. So some numbers of our university, we have almost 6,000 regular students, divided in undergraduate and graduate programs. The total is around 90,000 students. Our main areas of activities are education, human science, exact science, biological science. You can see the schools and the research centers. Green red is our school. Museums, center and advanced institutes. Our staff, we have almost 6,000 faculty members. Is our graduate degrees since 1972 to 2009, master and PhDs. Our research activities are involving every fields of knowledge. Our undergraduate research, we try to motivate students to be scientists early. This part of this group you can see behind me are undergraduate students doing their research in different fields. You can see some centers, research centers that we have. The results of our research in general are published in important journals that you can see: Nature, Science, and Nanoscience, and Nanotechnology, and many other important journals. Here we have magazines, internal magazines published at USP. We have extracurricular activities involving sports, elderly, and we have a symphonic orchestra. In particular, I'm very, very honored because until 2 years ago, I was the responsible for this program. Several museums. Our symphonic orchestra, sports area, and in particular, talking with the Texas University Group, internationalization is one very, very important challenge that we have at this moment. Of course, we have a collaboration with different institutions around the world, but at this moment, we are trying to improve and increase the number of institutions. I'm not sure if we have a agreement with Texas University university, but if we don't have, I would appreciate to get one agreement with you in the next future. The priorities in our internationalization, involve exchange of students and research projects in collaboration, shared graduate programs, and double degree. Some numbers of USP students abroad, undergraduate students, foreign students at USP, undergraduate as well. The number of international agreement, and the division of our collaborations around the world. Okay, this is just a little bit about University of São Paulo. In University of São Paulo, we have the School of Engineering of Lorena. That is our school. And in this school, I'm a faculty member at the Department of Chemical Engineering. And this is the activities of my group. I've been working for 10 years with environmental engineering, in particular advanced oxidation process using photocatalysis, modeling process optimization with multiple response variables, design of experiment, neural networks and meta heuristics. And in the last 2 years, we have started a new research line in biofuels production using algae, and one new research line that is innovation in engineering education, inspired on Missouri Education Subgroup at Harvard, the group that I'm a part. We have, my group having international collaboration with Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Lean Enterprise, Lean Product Development, University of Tennessee in Lean Enterprise, Colorado State University, University of Texas A&M in the Industrial Engineering Research, University of British Columbia in Canada, and Harvard University. Is a new collaboration that we have. Okay, so the next part of the presentation is focused on algae fuels. This material that I'm using, the source is Algae, one Indian institution. And why are we here for? To give an overall summary about algae biofuels, to highlight the opportunities in this sector. And I would appreciate to get collaboration with you in this area. A list of contents, and if we talk about our motivation to stay in this field of research, we can say that the incremental need for alternative fuels is mainly due to rising crude oil prices, and of course, crude oil is a finite source of energy, and the resulting impact in our environment due to fossil fuels, mainly global warming. If we see the classification of energy sources, we can see the renewable energy and no renewable energy, the traditional, and our focus right now is in biomass. I don't know if all of you have this specific information. Here in Brazil, we have one energy matrix that stay focused on hydrological energy and sugar cane. We produce alcohol, ethanol, the first generation ethanol from sugar cane, and at this moment we are in research using in a second generation ethanol from cellulose using bagasse, sugar cane bagasse. It's not our area here in this lab. In this lab, the biomass used is micro algae. So if you see the biofuels types, we can see mainly the biodiesel as substitute for petrol diesel, and ethanol is substitute for gasoline. Here in Brazil, we use hybrid engines, and we can use gasoline and ethanol in different proportions. The biomass as biofuel source, we can classify it into first, second, and third generation biofuels. In the first generation biofuels, we can have some examples from biofuels made from soybeans, palm, canola, and others. We have some pros and cons. The first generation ethanol in Brazil is the main feedstock is sugar cane, and you can see the other raw materials in the United States. Is the distribution of sugarcane cultures here in Brazil. In our state, we have a huge concentration of industries and land being used to produce sugarcane. The second generation is non-food biofeedstock are considered as feedstock second generation biofuels, mainly cellulose. Some pros. Eliminate competition for food and feed. It's one important thing to think more deeply about that. More efficient and environmentally friendly. Less farmland is required. Useful by products. Some cons, some downfall as the first generation fuels, but without as great as a nickel imprint. The second generation ethanol here in Brazil, we are in research using mainly sugarcane bagasse. And the third generation biofuels, algae, are considered to belong to the third generation feedstock. Some pros. Affecting human food chain. It's a very important thing to think about. Growing in places that are not suitable for agriculture, enhanced efficiency or reduction in costs. And some cons. The problem, of course, is in developing technologies that will enable to this kind of biofuel to be more cost effective to make. Microalgae contains oil, and this oil processed for biodiesel production. The microalgae composed of starch and cellulose processed for ethanol production. But here in our group, after separation of lipids, we are starting a new research to use the hydrocarbons to to do the fermentations and trying to produce ethanol at the same time. Another important aspect of algae fuels is the adaptability, lesser land required. It's another very important thing. The higher oil yield, the food versus fuel relations, and there is a range of products that can be produced using algae fuels. If we see the higher oil yield, microalgae is very different from the others, but the costs involved are at this moment very complicated. We have technical problem to solve. Algae, we need lesser land requirement. The algae is capable of producing 30 times more oil per acre than the current crops now utilized for the production of biofuels. Algae could produce up to 94,000 liters of oil per acre, shrinking land requirements. The adaptability of a range of environment in open conditions, using marine water, wastewater, open ponds. Solve the food versus fuel problem because it does not compete directly with crops grown for food. And a wide range of fuel products, biodiesel, ethanol, methane, hydrogen, and other commercial value-added products. We can integrate with wastewater treatment and CO2 capture. Of course, one question is how to obtain fuel from algae, picking up the best algae, growing the algae, harvesting, and generating the fuel product. It's not simple that this slide can try to show us. And here we have too many different opportunities of research in this area. Focusing on open system, similar that you can see in this slide, closed system, tubular PBR, flat plate PBR, also referred as photobioreactors. And I'm gonna show you some photobioreactors of our research group. This is one group of photobioreactors used in Mateus' master thesis. And the second generation of our photobioreactors that you can see behind me operating. And the production of biodiesel from algae, we have 5 steps: cultivation of microalgae species, harvesting of macroalgae, extraction of oil, transesterification, and the biodiesel production. Ethanol from algae, the algae biomass, fermentation process, and ethanol production. And this is one very important part of our challenge here in this group in collaboration with São Paulo State University. That's the production of hydrogen and the gasification process using pyrolysis and anaerobic digestion to produce methane. So, considering both groups are a research group, we have some challenges and some bottleneck. And these challenges, bottleneck, are focused on biological understanding of the cultivation process, some technical production process, because one thing is to produce microalgae in a small scale, in a lab scale, and after that to scale up to produce tons and tons. And at this moment we have some economical challenges to be solved, because the costs involved in biofuels from microalgae is very, very high, as you can see in this slide. But of course, it's not a problem for us, because all of you and all of us are scientists, and scientists try to figure out new solutions for human problems, for technological problems, and we are here to work hard trying to figure out new technologies and new opportunities and new solution for the Earth problem. Considering the growth and investments of algae fuels, you can see some numbers in US and UK, investments in millions of dollars, and the opportunities for entrepreneurs, biofuel production, R&D, investor, equipment manufacturer, biofuels refineries, bioremediation using algae. We are convinced that this is one tremendous opportunity for Brazilian entrepreneurs. Behind me you can see a part of them. I hope all of them or part of them could be in the next future entrepreneurs in this kind of field. Here right now we have some supports using government funds and trying to find clean tech investors. If you know some clean tech investor, please you can introduce our group, because we are trying to get this kind of opportunity of investment. So I have our group have some collaboration with another group in the Department of Biotechnology that are working with second generation ethanol, just some projects they are doing right now. And I think to warm up our conversation today, I think it's enough. In conclusion, even with few challenges taken into consideration, algae biofuels natural advantages look to make it one of the foremost players in the clean energy market. Algae biofuel production holds future promise for developing countries like Brazil, India, and others, more jobs and energy independence. Okay. Thanks for your attention for now, and I think we can start our open conversation. Okay? And I'd like to ask to Cristiano. Cristiano, please, I don't know if this sound for you is okay.
Yes.
The sound for us is not so good. And please, help us trying to translate, because a few minutes ago the understand it wasn't good for us. I think in your connection could be better than ours, and if you can't understand the questions, please help us.
Sure.
Okay. Wow.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, you can come up to the front.
Wait, so you want to start a question right now?
Yeah, so we have one question right now.
Okay.
Boa noite, doutor.
Wait, we need English here, but.
Yes, my question is, how could you explain a little bit of how the mechanics and the biology of the algae, please? How does it produce the biofuel? How does it work?
Do you mean the biochemistry of it, or?
Yes, yeah, the process in which it produces the biofuel.
Oh, sure. So basically, the algae itself doesn't produce the biofuel. It produces the feedstock, so then we can utilize it to produce the biofuel. There are some very, very particular cases in which some engineered microalgae has been reported as ethanol producing, but it's very rare. For example, we can direct two, I would say two big groups. One using oil from microalgae to produce the biodiesel, and one using starch or other sugars, so then we can produce ethanol. So from it, like for the oil part, then so then we can produce biodiesel. Some microalgae species have been reported to be known to accumulate these oils inside it as a sort of energy. Just pretty much any oil plant like soybean, canola, and some others. It's just in a micro scale. It's just a cell, like a single cell that holds some oils inside it. And then what we do after, we try to extract these oils and to produce the fuel. On the starch side, it's pretty much similar case. The cell is known to accumulate some starch as sort of energy, which could, like in its biochemical cycle, to be utilized for cell reproduction, cell growth. But instead of we allowing that starch to be utilized, we take that starch out and we make ethanol. So that's the basic principle of microbial fuel. Was that the answer you were looking for?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I got that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I have received some questions from Gisela, and I don't know if who asked these questions are there right now, but some of you asked which algae species is currently engineered genetically to accumulate more lipid content, and what's the maximum efficiency reached, and is the gene-modified algae better than non-gene-modified algae, and if I can discuss some pros and cons of both. Genetic engineering in microalgae is not something very new. It's been going on for like 10, 15 years now. I have here a review in my hand. It's from 2010, which is entitled Genetic Engineering of Algae for Enhanced Biofuel Production. So algae, as pretty much as any bioengineering side, we have some very particular and very studied strengths. Some of them are chlorella species, spirulina species, protelma species, and some others. So these more known species people try to understand the metabolic pathways in which the lipid production or the starch production or any other metabolic product of interest is being developed, and then basic bioengineering is made on it. Like, so then
accumulate or to produce or to express certain feature using that part of the gene. So that gene is well studied and went to further optimization. And especially for hydrogen production, the biomass must have some certain characteristics which are not naturally present in the cell. So, especially for hydrogen production, several researchers have tried to undergo through a new metabolic pathway in which it can produce the hydrogen, which would not be something natural. So yes, like the genetic engineering microalgae is something that is going on. Fortunately, since microalgae is not widely used for feed purposes, we don't have to worry much about the food the genetic issue in our feed in our food. So that's one last concern. And, so is the genetic modified algae better than the non-genetic modified algae? It can be for a certain product. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because like the algae can be engineered through process development, through nutrient stress or some other stress that it could help, but genetic modification is a way to go. Was that clear enough for you?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just to let you know, Cristiano, we can't see you.
Oh, sorry.
So Guilherme has
Okay,
some complementary information.
Oh, as Cristiano said, our microalgae here is not genetically modified, and our main research here is to find the best conditions for growing algae in a way it can produce more oil, and in some cases it can produce more carbohydrates. In our research, we are getting close for a good quality of oil, which can be used for biofuels, for airplane fuel, and biogasoline. And we are getting close, like for 50% of oil in mass for microalgae, which can be 10 times higher than first generation biofuels from soy or from other food sources.
Can you see me now?
No.
You're on? Oh, sorry.
At least we can see this guy. Let's keep going.
Not yet?
Control over this thing.
Not yet.
I'll hang up and then can you call me again?
Okay.
Okay?
About it.
Let us keep going until we figure this out.
Does anybody else in here have any questions for Dr. Messias or Cristiano?
I think I have.
Okay, we have some more questions.
Okay, it's working now.
You said something about nutrient stress and some other stress. What are the stress conditions that you follow?
Well, the stress conditions, especially for microalgae, are nutrient limitation. If we provide a high carbon to nitrogen ratio, we inhibit its cell growth, and then as store of energy, it starts to accumulate lipids, if that's the way. We can also stress it with light, and some of the light pathways inhibit some cell division. The cells become larger, and it can accumulate more starch. It can also undergo through
high salinity stress, which in some species can also induce the lipid accumulation, the oil accumulation.
Okay, so it's like it depends on the species that we are using.
Yes, yes.
Or the stress can be used in any species.
Through a certain extent, yes, but like each species is different. That's something that makes this research very difficult. If you allow me, I'm sorry, do you have any more questions?
I'm sorry, nothing much.
Sorry. So Martin, that's a very interesting question. What is keeping biofuels from being as ubiquitous in our society as fossil fuels? And that's in the questions that Gisela provided us. That's something very difficult because microalgae can utilize CO2 as carbon source for it to grow. But when it utilizes CO2, it doesn't accumulate as much biomass, which means it grows in a very, very dilute way. So then we have biomass at maximum, like at 3 grams per liter of cultivation, which is very dilute. And like for us to process that biomass becomes very, very costly. Another way we can grow this microalgae is using like some other carbon sources. For example, glucose or any agricultural residue. In this kind of growth, the microalgae concentration can achieve like very, very high yield, achieving what we call as high density culture. And in these conditions, we can accumulate like up to 80 grams per liter, 80 grams of biomass per liter, which becomes pretty much like a soup of microalgae. It's very thick, but the point of it is we are converting sugar directly to algae, which is not something very productive if we look at the end product. For example, from the start point of view, it doesn't make much sense for us to convert sugars using microalgae, which can accumulate starch, and then after we get this starch and we convert it to ethanol. Why don't we convert directly the sugar directly to ethanol? So one way, like one very a key question in this field is like, how can we optimize the growth and the products we want using the cheapest feedstock like we can, which are the carbonic acid, like the CO2, and some very, very low value feedstock. So then we can try to accumulate a more dense culture, and then from it the engineering can be much cheaper.
Okay, and during the extraction,
Sorry.
I'd like to get a little bit more about these Cristiano considerations. That part of our challenge here, considering that is a system with a large number of variables, all of this kind of scenarios that Cristiano showed you involve too many different variables, process variables and output variables. So part of our work right now is trying to get information about all of these variables and have one mathematical model. Is a multiple mathematical model And with this model, mathematical model, using simulation, we can choose different type of results that we can manipulate using different kind of photobioreactors environment. In particular, at this moment, we are using design of experiments with multiple responses and genetic algorithm, simulated milling, and different kind of heuristics to have this model and simulate all these conditions and have one specific direction depending on what we are looking for.
I have one more question. During the extraction, there will be protein biomasses also, right? Apart from lipid content?
Yes. Yes, some species are known for accumulating high content of protein, especially spirulina. Spirulina is used, is widely used in some Asian countries as feed source. So that's particular like for some species as well.
So how do you choose the species depending on the protein content, or is based on which factor you choose the species?
Like
nature factor.
Some species are more. We basically try to select our strains on our needs, and some species are more known for protein. Some species are more known for lipids, and some species are more known for starch. Yes, even though like in theory any species could be engineered to do any product we want, we try to start from the like what people had already been done, and like some species, especially some subspecies of chlorella and also spirulina have been widely studied for protein. So basically, if for example, if we would start a project right now, like about protein accumulation with using microalgae, I would probably start with like a more studied strain on high protein content.
Thanks.
Yeah.
One more and then seat, I guess.
Yeah, we have another question.
I don't like a lot of people with questions.
Oh.
And others kind of,
Wait.
you want to see so they
You
can
go
actually
to the
hear
front.
you.
Yeah.
See me?
Yeah. On the second right, that's you.
Alright. Hey, I'm Jacob. I understand like your financial issues in trying to get funding. Have you guys ever thought about finding species that can output essential fatty acids to then be sold as supplements?
Yes. That's we don't do that in our lab.
Yeah.
There are some research groups, especially in the U.S. I think, especially in Iowa State, Oregon State, and Purdue, if I'm not wrong. They do study these kind of like very high value fatty acids. Especially some species are known for producing some omega-3 and omega-9 fatty acids. But this kind of research requires much more funding and it's a more comprehensive work towards fundamental biochemistry, biochemical engineering, and yes, that's something I would say outside of the scope of our group by now.
Okay.
But that's something to look for in the future.
Right.
Something that the people push forward now is the production of some pigment, and some species of microalgae are known to accumulate like moderate to high levels of pigment that can be sold at very, very high price. And some researchers, they actually produce, like they developed a model of microalgae biorefinery in which only the pigments are optimized. Like the biofuels and the proteins and everything else is just like as their second project, their second product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know with chlorella, a lot of people buy it for the pigmentation, chlorophyll, and they take that as an antioxidant for their health.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a short comment from someone.
Oh, sure.
Hello, I'm Dr. Crystal Castillo. I'm faculty member here in mechanical engineering. So nice meeting you. I'm very glad that you mentioned the optimization component. So basically that's my research area. In mechanical, we have mechanical and manufacturing engineering in the same department, and my background is also in industrial and systems engineering. So my research is in second generation biofuels, and basically we're looking at building mathematical models for the whole system, reducing the logistics cost, and I'm looking at multi-criteria optimization, so how you can minimize costs but also maximize quality or minimize greenhouse emissions. I'm teaching here at UTSA design of experiments and response surface. So I would like to just continue the conversation and maybe have future collaborations with you all, and my students are actually trained on those concepts. So it will be very interesting to know work with algae and third generation biofuels.
Okay, I'm very happy to know about this kind of work that you are doing. And Gisela, please give my email to the professor, and I would appreciate maybe after this talk trying to figure out opportunities, because this kind of research is not our research here in this lab. I'm a faculty member in another state university, São Paulo State University, and this kind of multi-criteria optimization process using AHP, operation research, and the design of experiments, multiple response variables optimization are different kinds of research that I really would appreciate to get close collaboration with you. And this December, I'm going back to Harvard, and I will be there till April. And in this period, I'm going to Minnesota, visit Cristiano's lab, and if it's possible, I would appreciate visit Texas University, and maybe have in person one meeting with faculty members and trying to figure out collaborations in the next future.
That would be great. So let me just extend the invitation, and maybe we can follow up. Maybe you can give a seminar here. So yeah, I'm glad that you're coming to the US, and I have implemented TA and SA for different applications in renewable energy, but also in manufacturing processes. So.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Sweet. We don't need a lot more people.
Does anybody else have any questions?
call out names, because I have names here.
I don't think we have any other questions.
No. Shane, you had a question. What yield of biofuel production with algae? What is the yield of biofuel production with algae?
No, that was my question. But he couldn't translate. Yeah. Yeah, I was just asking about the yield of this type of technology.
It's my turn.
Oh, sure.
Because he kind of showed it on the slide, so I just wanted to readdress that question.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Neil. I have a few questions for you guys. So not so much in terms of like how the scientific parts of it works out, but a little bit of like how it would affect the vehicle that you're putting into it and some other effects of it. So can you compare how the biofuel powered car would compare to the gasoline powered car and electric powered car in terms of like the performance and the effects on the car itself?
Okay. Basically, I'm a huge fan of electric cars. I had a talk with the professor in the electrical engineering department. He's part-time professor here. This department I'm in right now, the University of Minnesota. My department here, the Department of Bioproducts and Biosystems Engineering. And he was telling me the future of like cars is very, very likely to be electric cars. Like gasoline and liquid fuels are probably going to be in the market for the next, I don't know, 50 years maybe. And then we're probably just changing it to electric. We definitely we have to figure out something to do within the next 50 years, especially for cars. So through like a materials perspective, biodiesel generated from microalgae oil that has undergone like through all the treatments and everything should be similar to a biodiesel product, like should be similar to biodiesel produced from soybean or from palm. The only thing that it can be different is the color. Some treatments don't remove the color very well, but that I personally I don't know if that would have much effect on the efficiency itself. But the future for this kind of fuel, in my opinion, from what I have read so far, is for trucks, for the Navy, and like maybe also for aviation. I think in 2009 or 2010, the U.S. Navy invested over pretty much, I think, $1 billion on algae research, and they were able to fuel up a ship of their Navy with algae fuel. I'm not sure what kind of fuel it was, but they put a lot of money and they put it to work. And that's very happy for us who work in this kind of project. But something also we have to understand is that like algae-based fuels, they don't have to prove they are better than the others. Like the key for biofuel success is trying to understand that one kind of biofuel is not better, is not the best. It's not, for example, soybean-based biodiesel is not better than sugarcane ethanol per se. It depends on the region. It depends on how you cultivate it. If you develop microeconomy, how that process this process is sustainable within that region. So for example, algae-based biofuels, for example, biodiesel, it can be very, very sustainable and very, very productive in a certain region of Brazil. But if we try to move the technology, for example, to Texas, it may not work. But why not? Like maybe the species doesn't. If we try to grow it on the outside, maybe the species won't grow very well. Like due to weather, due to some climate changes, and that may not work. And the same thing for soybean biodiesel and for corn ethanol, for sugarcane ethanol. Yeah, sorry for having a little bit gone on your top. That's something I'd like to talk about.
So I like the idea that you started out with, that how you see like electric cars being a future of it. I personally agree with it, but you know, considering the way our battery technology is set up currently, I don't think it's quite practical for us to like, you know, just like turn everything electric overnight or even in like next 5 years or something. And that's really why I think like biofuels comes into play, because you know they are always using the existing infrastructure, like you know the pumps and like the tank and all that. So I think that's really where the biofuels are advantageous, knowing that they are using the infrastructure that's already in place and like people know how to use it and all. One more question of mine was because you know, whereas with like electric cars, there's like no tailpipe, so there's like no possible way for it to generate any kind of emission, because you are really not like burning anything. There's really not like an engine per se, it's more like electric motor. How would you think like emissions with biofuels work out compared to the normal gas car?
I don't have the numbers right now. About greenhouse, the CO2 emissions should be about the same, even though, for example, biodiesel has, in theory, a lower efficiency than a comparable diesel. Like the emissions, the CO2 emissions should be about the same, but biofuels in general have much less sulfur emissions. So that's something very, very useful. Even though some biofuels, if they are not processed, like to make it the best possible, they can have, and they usually have more nitro compound emissions. So that's something. It depends. Like from like a consumer point of view, it actually depends on the feedstock and like how this biofuel has been produced. So then we can decide like if petrol-based fuel is better than the biofuels or vice versa. So it actually depends on everything.
And if you see in terms of thermodynamics considerations, the profile of the biofuels is very, very similar to the fuels from the other sources. But the main aspect is that to produce this kind of biofuel, we capture CO2. And in my opinion, it's a very, very important thing to be considered in the adoption of one or another kind of fuel. But okay, there is some studies in another group here doing exergetic analysis and thermodynamic analysis, comparing all of this kind of fuels, traditional fuels, and the biofuels. But the most important thing to think about is all of this kind of biofuel are capturing CO2. CO2 is it's one very, very strong enemy of the planet. And
Yes.
we need to try to fight him.
Sure.
And doing efforts to minimize all this kind of effects to the planet.
So even though it does put out carbon, but it sucks it up back when you're producing it. And the good part in terms of sulfur, at least, also is that it has much lower sulfur, like you guys mentioned, compared to the gas cars. So that's for sure good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Cristiano briefly mentioned in terms of like how much power would it generate for a car to run, and it seemed like it was a bit less than the existing gas car, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think like it'll be like I don't know, like drastic difference, as in like you know like having, because then you mentioned that instead of using biofuels for you know like normal family-sized car, that the biofuels are meant for like big trucks and aviation and all those. So it seems like those machinery would need even higher power than small-scale family cars. So then considering that biofuels already produce lower amount of energy compared to gas cars, then how would it work for like big trucks that need even more power?
That's only, in my opinion, that's only valid for biodiesel.
Okay.
Because, like, if we look at the structure, biodiesel has, it's already, the molecular structure is already a tiny portion of it has been already oxidized. So what the engine really does is it oxidizes the whole molecule and it extracts the most energy and convert it to the mechanical moving of the car. So that. That's the reason why I saw some studies like it indicates a little bit like over 4 to 5% less energy dense than diesel. So for a truck, for example, using biodiesel or diesel, that wouldn't make much difference. But for ethanol purposes, the ethanol is the ethanol from sugarcane, from corn, from lignocellulosic material from microalgae, it's the same. It goes through the same fermentation and the same preparation and like the same process development.
And so when earlier one of our students asked as for like which species would you pick for biofuels, you know, you describe as like each species has its you know like its own strong point, so that based on whatever intentions are, you will pick that particular species in terms of algae. But and you know when we're talking about like you know like sugar cane versus algae or like whatever type of organism you will pick to generate the biofuels, we consider as to what type of climate we have to actually produce that thing in local regions and all those things. But you know, given that let's say that you have all the ideal conditions you need to for whatever type of organism you want to use, so that, you know, let's say perfect environment for any type of organism like algae or like particular crop like sugar cane like you guys use in Brazil, or like corn, which is really popular here in the US. So you know, as in overall, you know, let's say in general, you know, like not specific as to let's say just for aviation, but as in general, just for sake of transportation, I guess majority of transportation would probably like cars and bikes and all those. So what crop or what type of organism would be the best choice for the biofuels overall?
It's a tough question.
I mean, I understand, you know, all organisms would have their own, you know, plus and minuses. But I guess that's overall, because I mean, you know, let's say whenever 10 years down the road, if it does go into big production, you're probably not going to have like one gas station has like, you know, biofuel coming from soybeans and the other gas station has biofuels coming from like algae. You're probably going to have like either like some kind of mixture or like one crop is going to, you know, outcompete all others. So like, you know, given that you do have all the ideal climate to produce whatever the best choice is, as of right now, what do you think is the best choice?
But you can make seasonal, so then it will be cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, they don't grow at the same time, so you can, like, establish that type of relationship.
And so Gisela was just here mentioning that based on season, you can perhaps pick a particular, algae or corn or something like that. But let's say if we were to go that route, would the ultimate product be the same? Like my car having different biofuel in it every 6 months or something, would that really matter?
If for example, if your car is based on ethanol, no.
Okay.
But if you have some diesel, and if you want to fuel it with biodiesel, no, that should be the same. Like be talking about diesel from algae, from soybeans, from anything.
Okay. And I will ask.
The only thing is the color. Like I saw a huge difference. There's like it was a marketing professor and a chemical engineering professor, and they were trying to overcome this color issue. Like people would be very, very afraid of going to the pump and seeing a green field. And so that's something like people, some minor groups are trying to overcome right now.
I think with like some kind of dye or like color adding in it, and I mean we're like consider gasoline, like how frequently do you actually see gas color yourself? Like it goes from the pump directly into your car, so it may not be a huge issue. And one last question I will before passing on to someone else. We did see that it was already kind of pretty expensive to make algae biofuels, which was really opposite than what I initially had impression of, because I thought biofuels would be much cheaper, considering like gas prices are going higher and higher, and that can produce crop on a massive scale would be cheaper. But knowing that as of right now, at least, that algae fuels are really expensive, what do you think like time would be? Roughly like 10 years or something like that, as in not just algae fuel, but like any biofuel source in general would become efficient enough to come to mass market.
Well, hopefully within the next 10 or 20 years, things will be better. Particular for algae biofuels, the thing is trying, like the culture itself, it's not expensive. Like if we want to culture using CO2, we basically just need CO2 and very cheap nutrients. So that's a very fair price for production. But the thing is trying to bulk, to harvest that mass, and so then we can produce. Like it's very, very